Hi everyone, I'm Stacey Tavman, founder and CEO of Rise Collaborative. Welcome to On the Rise TV, where we feature incredible women and their story. Today, we're featuring Leanna, somebody who's had an interesting career path, but a common theme throughout. With a resume spanning business, nonprofit, and now higher education, Leanna Clark brings a breadth of experience to every conversation. In her current role as Vice Chancellor for the University of Colorado Denver, she is the voice for more than 7,000 employees and 17,000 students who work and attend the institution. Leanna has even experienced the highs and lows of business ownership and entrepreneurism, having started one of Denver's largest PR and marketing firms, which she ran for 12 years. She is a skilled communicator and strategist, to say the least. Welcome, Leanna.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. It's been too long. I think the last time I saw you was about a year ago.
It was just about when you launched.
Yes. I don't even know if we were open yet.
I don't think you were. It looks great.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you because doing a lot of research on your path, and you've had a really interesting career path crossing over many sectors and industries. We always love to start and back it on up. You know, everything we do here at Rise is around high school girls and thinking about how do we create this pipeline for success. So I love to back it up. I know it's a little bit, silly to go back to high school days, but, what was your first job and what were you thinking you were going to be back then?
So in high school, I was a hostess at a local restaurant that had this killer brunch. We would have like a 4-hour wait at brunch, and we're finagling who to get in line next and how to seat people. And it was myself and 2 or 3 friends from high school and an older woman. I think she was in her mid-20s, but she seemed so old.
Right, well, we're 16.
I know. We all adored her and looked up to her. And it was just it was a very good lesson in juggling, in building relationships. People would come up and be mad because they'd been waiting for 2 hours, and how do you work that and still keep them happy? So customer service.
Yeah.
I parlayed that into, I worked my way through college at a restaurant, and I went to school at CU Boulder, and we have the Hill in Boulder. And I managed a restaurant that had 3-2 beer, which is no more, but that was you could drink when you were 18.
Oh, so, wow, I didn't know that existed.
So
okay.
I managed about a staff of about 30 at 18, 19 years old. I learned how to tap a keg in record time, boot drunks. So again, because it was a 3-2 bar essentially. So again, just another lesson in customer service, in relationships, in how to deal with delicate situations.
Yeah. And think on your feet.
And think on my feet for sure.
Yeah, I say everyone needs to work, as a waitress, in retail, various other things, because the experience you get from that is...
Right. And at the time, if you asked what I thought I might be doing, I actually went into college pre-med. I had a pre-med scholarship from high school. We had this class that brought together science students from all the local high schools, and I got a scholarship from that. So I started out pre-med, but I sort of always knew I would go back to communications and writing in some way because that was sort of where my heart was. And after about a semester in college, that's where I returned to.
So you were always a great writer, English was your class?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed science as well, but writing and communicating was always sort of my natural. And when I got to college, I probably could have stretched myself and gone pre-med, but I had worked so hard in high school that I kind of wanted to enjoy myself too. So, and I'm glad I did. It's been a real natural fit for me, and I think if you're a good communicator and a good writer, you can parlay that into any career.
Well,
so
and you did. That's what I find so fascinating about you. So you did TV, you've started your own company, you've worked in corporate, nonprofit, and now you are at the university. It's fascinating all the industries and sectors you've been a part of.
I've done a little bit of everything. So my career path has not followed any obvious trajectory. Again, I started out in television, so small market TV where I did everything. So I would lug around 80 pounds of equipment and also be reporter. Pre-GPS, pre-cell phone days. So I was often, this is Nebraska.
Do you have maps that you were like unfolding, trying to figure out where to go?
I was driving dirt roads, trying to find my way, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
And really learned how to think on my feet, roll with the punches, tell stories, and be self-sufficient and self-reliant, but also know how my part played into the greater team. So that was a very good lesson. And from there, I quit that without another job because I wanted to get back to Denver. I was trying to get married at the time. So I also learned that sometimes you just have to take a chance. So I came back to Denver without a job. I did some freelance writing, some different freelance. Through a former professor at CU Boulder, I got a foot in the door in nonprofit arts. PR and marketing director for Colorado Ballet at the time. I had no business getting that job.
I saw that.
No business.
Colorado
I didn't know
Ballet's
arts,
a big
I didn't
deal.
know ballet, I didn't know marketing, but I got the job, and then I just had to figure it out.
Now, why do you think they hired you?
Part of it was a recommendation from my professor, and then the fact that I'd been a reporter and I knew how to tell a story. I knew how to take something and make it into something compelling for an external audience, because that's what I did as a reporter. But then I had to do advertising. I had to do all these different things I'd never done.
Right.
And I just sort of figured it out.
Now, it sounds like you put yourself in a lot of situations at a very young age that takes, huge amounts of courage. What gave you that courage?
I guess I did. Sometimes you don't really think about it that way. It's just, here's the opportunity, take advantage of it, and you put yourself in the situation and you just do it. I don't really know that I thought of it as courage.
Yeah.
It was just more, wow, this looks fun, this looks exciting, and let's see if I can figure it out. And that's one thing I think women and girls sometimes second guess themselves more than men. And they think, well, I don't have all 10 qualifications, so maybe I shouldn't do it. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to wade in. And
now, would you say you were putting yourself out of your comfort zone, or was your comfort zone quite large?
No, I was always putting myself outside my comfort zone and faking it a lot of times. And I've told this, when I had my agency, I had a PR firm for a number of years, and mostly young women on my team, my staff of about 30. And I would often tell them that sometimes it's a matter of how you say it, and saying it with confidence and with belief in yourself. Because I would be sitting, I was probably 30, sitting across from older men in a corporate environment, often old enough to be my father or older, and giving them advice and giving them counsel. So sometimes it's saying it with that belief in yourself, and then it feeds it, and it feeds it, and it feeds it. And then they believe in you more. So part of it is just having that confidence and taking that risk. And you don't always believe it. My heart would be pounding like this.
Oh, I get it. My heart does that all the time. I think I used to think that I had to be perfect or not even scared to be able to do crazy things.
Right.
But I found it's the exact opposite. My heart's always pounding on my chest.
Exactly.
Those things that are really important.
Right, it is.
Yeah, so do you feel like that's what made you so successful through the years, is your willingness to put yourself out there?
I think so. Willingness to put myself out there, and also cultivating relationships. I never applied for a job after that first job when I came back here to Denver. After that, every job I have taken has been based on a relationship.
Really?
Yeah. So somebody believed in me and said, hey, why don't you look at this? Or hey, I'd like to bring you into this. And I've taken advantage of that. But I think what that speaks to is the importance of cultivating relationships.
Yeah.
Because people will open doors for you, and take advantage of that. Get to know people. I built my agency, which was the largest in the Rocky Mountain region, through relationships.
Oh, I believe it. The research shows that social capital is one of the biggest predictors to success. So when you say cultivate relationships, what does that even look like? What would you tell a 20-year-old who's hearing that and thinking, no way, I'm not getting out there?
Right. Well, and I'm also an introvert too, and nobody believes that.
Right.
So part of that is pushing yourself beyond that, and that's probably the hardest thing I've done in my career is pushing myself to, even though I am an introvert and I still sort of treasure that in many ways, pushing myself beyond that. But when you sit at a boardroom table, for example, as a volunteer next to somebody who has a company and you gain their trust in different ways, when they have a need, they're going to look to you, they're going to hire you because there's that built-in trust. So that relationship piece is really important. And it becomes, once you start doing it and it feeds itself, it becomes fun.
Yeah.
And not just for my benefit, but for the benefit of others. I love it when someone calls me and says, hey, I've got this idea, I'd like to do this, I'm thinking this could be really cool and it could have a big community benefit. And I'll say, this person is someone you could connect. And if I can put those people together and they do something really cool, that's awesome. So it's not just a benefit to yourself, it's a benefit to sort of the larger community to be able to do that.
And I think people don't understand that that's what relationship building is.
Right.
It's not what's in it for me, it's how can I help the person that I'm talking with.
Right, and I think that's good karma. I think it comes back when you do that.
That is a good point, absolutely. Now, since you've been in all these different industries and you've been successful in all of them, how has your definition of success changed through the years?
Oh my goodness. I think it used to be title, prestige, never really salary, but certainly, being comfortable. Now it's more time. It's having the time to balance my personal life with career. So, and to bring others along. I mean, I think at certain points in my career, it was more about just sort of me advancing, and now it's me helping to advance others. So both at my agency and now in my current role, my team is what's most important. So if I can help them succeed, because I see myself in some of them, and they're young and they're energetic and they want to learn so badly. So if I can open doors for them or help them achieve, that's become more of my definition of success as I've gone along.
Now you mentioned working at the bar and various other people and managing a team. I mean, it sounds like you did that from a very young age.
I did, and I didn't really even know that I was doing it, right? It's just, you don't
know what you don't know,
right? You're put in this situation and you just do it.
Right, and for me, I have found that managing is one of the hardest things. It's not something that comes natural to understand how to motivate 20, 30, and now at the university, quite a few people. Yeah. What are some of the lessons you've learned on how to be a good manager?
So when I had my agency, we developed something called the coach approach. So a lot of very young women in an agency environment that need a lot of mentoring and coaching. So we actually hired some consultants to come in and then we actually bought their small agency and absorbed them because we learned so much from it. That to me became the key to my management style. I expect a lot from the people on my team. I hold them accountable, but I also look for what motivates them, what's important to them, and that's different for every person. Sure. But if I can figure that out, and then also structure teams in a way where people complement each other, because somebody might be really good at this, somebody else is good at this, how do you bring them together in a way that they grow together and they shine, and it's all for the better good of the organization ultimately.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're really intentional in what you're doing. Yet another example of it. And I think about that in terms of communication. Mm-hmm. You were saying earlier about how you say something or how you craft a message can really make a big impact. And I think communication skills are something that young people really, and even me, in 41, I'm continuing to learn. What kind of advice would you have to someone in terms of communication, how to get your message across? Because there's so many times that people want to share and be heard, but the way that they're framing it or packaging it, it's just not landing.
I think the most important thing is it's not what matters to you, it's what matters to your audience. Mm-hmm. So don't think about what do I want to say, it's who am I trying to influence, who am I talking to, and what's important to them. And then if you can craft your message in a way that resonates with them, that's what matters. Because I can say all I want. If it's not meaningful to the people I'm talking to or to the audience I want to influence, it doesn't matter. So for a high school girl or for whoever it might be, what do they value? And how do I think about what I want to say in a way that matters to them, I think is the most important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's really smart. And that shows a strength of yours. And one of the things I love talking about, I think strengths are amazing, but so often a strength can also be a shadow. At least for me. I'm a go-getter, I get things done, I move fast, which has served me well, but sometimes when managing people, those skills can get in my way as well. So I think it's interesting to have that conversation about and versus or, this idea that things rarely are just one thing. And so I'm curious if what your strength is that is also sometimes a shadow.
Well, it's very funny. The example you just gave, I would say, is mine as well.
Well, we match.
I know. Look at
our strengths and shadows.
I move very fast. I love that. I love a fast-paced environment. I'm good at looking at a situation and figuring out what needs to get done and then chunking it down and getting there. And I learned early on, and I remember a former boss of mine saying, because I don't even remember the situation, but I had already assessed it, and he said, she's already way past, because everyone else was sort of asking questions, and he said, she's kind of gone.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I need to back up.
Right.
And someone at some point said to me, sometimes you need to go slow to move fast. So I literally say that to myself sometimes, because I do need to just slow myself down and make sure others are with me before I move forward. So that's one thing that it has served me so well, but sometimes it comes back to bite you. So slowing down when you need to has been a very important lesson.
Yeah, I've had many coaches say, take a breath, Stacey.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yes.
So we've talked about how you've had your agency, which let me back up to that. I mean, to have a business, a small business, to go past 5 years, 7 years, that's huge. And you were in business for quite some time and won all sorts of awards. That's amazing.
It was a lot of fun.
Did you learn?
One of them was what I talked about in terms of bringing people along in the coach approach and how important that is, because especially at a young age, people are moving and changing jobs frequently, and as an employer, you want to keep them. So that was a very good lesson in how to keep people and how to keep them sustained and keep them learning. I also learned about so many different industries. And if, as a young woman, if someone is thinking about, I don't really know what I want to do, an agency environment is really great, because I did financial services, banking, healthcare, natural foods, airlines, transportation, you name it. So now I feel like I could go into any business, any corporate environment, and most business issues are the same regardless of the industry. So to go in to be able to assess the needs of a company and trust yourself to be able to do so and ask the right questions.
Yeah.
So asking the right questions is very important. So that was a real learning, is not to be daunted by an industry you're not familiar with, because you can apply the same tools regardless.
Now, you shared a lot about your company and the things you guys did, and then you went on to nonprofit, which can be quite a switch. So share a little bit about what you created in the nonprofit you worked with.
There's a nonprofit called Project Cure that is international but based here in Denver, and they take medical supplies and equipment to developing nations across the world.
Oh, awesome.
And so it's hospitals, doctors' offices who are done with equipment and are going to get rid of it. Project Cure takes and ships them to countries in need. So for that nonprofit, I started a division called Philanthropy. Philanthropy
I
and
love
travel.
The name, smashing it together.
So the idea was to travel with purpose. So we looked at where is someplace that's not too far to go that we can take community and business leaders, people who are really busy, and get them there and back in like a week. But still, they can see the need and see how they can impact the need. So we did a number of trips to Belize, to Mexico, to Panama, primarily to Cuba. So I've been to Cuba 8 times, and I fell in love with the country, the most resilient people I've ever met, and the need there is so great. So we attracted business and community leaders, took them there. We toured the hospitals, we saw what the need was, and then we met that need because those people would donate, and we would ship medical equipment to Cuba. And we really made a huge impact. In the 2 or 3 years I was doing this, we shipped about $5 million worth of medical equipment into Cuba. So we really impacted lives there. But just as important, I hope that the 200 or 300 people who traveled with us on these trips, I hope I changed the way they travel. Because now when they go to a different country, it's not just staying on your all-inclusive resort. It's seeing the country and seeing what the need is, and knowing that when you travel, I think you have some sort of responsibility to make an impact on that country. So if there's need in that country and you can help, we should do so. So my hope is that through that experience, I open their eyes to what's going on in other parts of the world, and that we can have an impact on that and really be a positive influence.
Yeah, and I think that crosses over beyond travel as well. Just the idea of when you gain perspective and put yourself out there.
Most certainly.
Can really shift how you view the world.
There's a Mark Twain quote that I'm going to mangle, but about the fact that there's so much that you can learn from travel and just from experiencing other cultures and the way that other people live. It's huge.
And so you went on from owning a business to a nonprofit to corporate to now you're at a university.
Yes.
So what's next?
Oh my goodness.
Where will you be in 5 years, 10 years, 20
I am
years?
not sure.
That's a fair answer.
And you know what? I have never really
right?
known. Right? That is the fun. I mean, I said it earlier. My path has not been a straight line, and I've never really thought this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be here in 5 years or here in 10 years.
So you didn't necessarily
No. Oh no, not at all.
Have a clear course.
So people, or if young women today think, I need to set a course for this. I mean, if that's the way you want to do it, that's great. But you shouldn't feel you need to do that. Because I think a lot of it is taking advantage of the opportunities that present themselves. And that's where relationships come into play, because people will open doors for you. And that's what's happened for me. So I'm not sure where I'll be in 5 years. I still love what I do. CU Denver is wonderful in that we have this fascinating student population. Many are first in their families to go to college. Many are underserved minorities. So helping those students succeed is really important. I have a great team, so I can see myself there in 5 years. Yet, if something came along, I never say never.
You never know.
Right.
Now, you've mentioned relationships quite a bit throughout this conversation, and here at Rise, we agree with you wholeheartedly and live by the quote, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Because it really shapes what you believe, how you feel, what you can accomplish, all of it. And so I'm curious if you would share one of your 5 and how they've shaped you.
So I will say right now, I'll say my son, Lucas, who is 17. He is at East High School. Frankly, I don't spend as much time with him these days because it is not cool to spend that much time with a 17-year-old. And obviously, that relationship has changed over the years. But right now, what I'm so enjoying is talking to him like an adult. And in many ways, he's still 17. In many ways, he's 7. But in some ways, he is so beyond his years. East has a class called Constitutional Law, Con Law, that he has gotten so engaged in. And I've always been very politically engaged, very into current events. And this kid used to never know what was going on in the world, and now he knows. We'll talk about politics, we talk about impeachment, we talk about the candidates. He's teaching me things about the Constitution. So this being able to learn from him and have the tables start to turn on our relationship is really exciting. And I've just, the impact of my life is just the sense of pride in him and an excitement for him and what the future holds, because this is sort of, to see a light turn on for him is really exciting.
And that's neat. I think people so often think that you've got to just talk to people in your same age bracket. And young people, they bring such interesting views of the world and open your eyes in ways you've never imagined.
Learning from my 17-year-old son has been really, really exciting.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so good catching up. It's been too long. We'll have to make it happen more regularly.
I would love that.
Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you.